Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, for those of you who listen to this podcast regularly, you'll know that for the last number of days, we've been celebrating different national days from different countries. We've had Flight Attendants Day, and we've had many others. Apparently today is National Drive-Through Day, and that's the day when we celebrate those drive-throughs which they have at fast food restaurants. Now, I'm sure you know them. Those are the kinds of McDonald's that you go to, and you kind of like drive around the block, and in one window, they take your order, and then you drive around and pay for it at the next window and pick up your food. They're very common here, and they're called drive-throughs. They celebrate the fact that we can pick up and eat a meal without having to leave the car. We might take it for granted, but eating in our cars is a privilege that would have sounded crazy 100 years ago. By the way, to take something for granted means to assume it's always been there and not think about it, not to pay it any respect. Sometimes we take our family members for granted when they cook for us. So to take something or someone for granted just means to treat them like they're a piece of the furniture and that perhaps it's something that's borrowed or something that's alive that we generally ignore, which serves a purpose in our lives. We often take technology for granted until such times as it breaks. And then when it breaks, we immediately rush to look at it to see what the problem is. The first ever drive-through opened in Missouri in 1947, and you may think that it was McDonald's, but actually it wasn't. And McDonald's didn't have theirs until 1975. It was at a place called Red's Giant Hamburg on Route 66 in Springfield, Missouri. I wonder if that's Route 66 that we hear about in the movies, the very famous road. I don't know. The drive-through, the actual system of driving around the restaurant, the drive-through, it became so popular in America that it actually started to influence car design. In 1983, the cup holder started to appear in cars. I've never seen one of those, but then I don't drive, so I'm guessing it's on the dashboard in the car. National Drive-Through Day was created in 2002 and was founded by a particular fast food restaurant, which is called Jack in the Box. The Americans love their drive-throughs, don't they? Very nice. I mean, it's a lovely idea, but it's not really something we celebrate here. But I know in the States, in the USA, drive-throughs are something which are a part of everyday life. I don't drive. I've never had any kind of inclination to drive. It's just not my thing. I mean, when I was younger, the female members of my family, my mother and my grandmother, they both felt it was inappropriate for women to drive. I don't know why. Women were driving in those days. So they expected family members just to take them places. And they sat in the back, like some kind of famous actress. In fact, my grandmother was so small, I remember once she got in the car and she actually stood on the seat and sat in the back. She was actually sitting on the upper part of the back seat because she was so small. She didn't know that you were supposed to sit on the seat and your head rested on the back part. She was sitting on it. So to escape having that responsibility, I just didn't learn, because I know that if I did, my fate would have been sealed. My fate would have been sealed is an English idiom which means my fate would have been decided. I simply would have become their chauffeurs, and I really didn't want that responsibility. So I didn't learn to drive. And so other members of the family had to ferry them around when they were going to the shops and these things. Anyway, if you are celebrating National Drive-Through Day, which seems such a bizarre thing to celebrate, but if you are, try a new one. Don't just go to your local McDonald's. Try Burger King or Taco Bell. Oh, Taco Bell is delicious. I hadn't heard of Taco Bell before, but then they suddenly, about 5 or 6 years ago, started to appear everywhere around where I live. And they're already very big in America. Americans love Taco Bell. So it was a family member that said to me, "Oh my God, Taco Bell, we have to go there." And we did. It's okay, Taco Bell. So if you find a Taco Bell drive-through, I'd recommend that one. Other ways to celebrate National Drive-Through Day, where you can look for special deals, invite your friends. You can share the date with other national holidays. I mean, it's also National Tequila Day. So you could bring both in together. And it's also National Cousins Day. Oh, well, that really wouldn't work in the UK. We don't generally keep in touch with our families. Did you know that the drive-through format was created for banking services? Yeah, strange, isn't it? And mid-afternoon is the best time to go. And the drive-through design heavily influences what we order. So people usually stop to look at the boards. Apparently, drive-throughs take laziness to a new level. Well, it's kind of obvious. They force us to clean our cars regularly. And they aren't just for dinner anymore. You can go at any point. And related to National Drive-Through Day is National Fast Food Day on November 16th. National Eat What You Want Day on May the 11th. And National Cheeseburger Day on September the 18th. So I don't know where they get all these ideas. There's no ideas here about how it came into being or who set it all up. But again, I'm guessing that it's the American government somehow. It's also National Amelia Earhart Day. Now, I must admit, when I saw that, I thought to myself, oh, I really must watch Ally McBeal. I haven't seen that on TV for ages. But then I remembered that's actually Callista Flockhart, not Amelia Earhart. That was the actress Callista Flockhart in Ally McBeal. Do you remember Ally McBeal? It was a comedy with a woman who worked as a lawyer. Anyway, Amelia Earhart was one of America's pioneers in aviation. As I recall, she made her first flight, was it? I think on July 24th. And she was very famous, of course, because she vanished, didn't she? She was never found while flying her aeroplane. I don't think actually July 24th was the date she flew. I believe that was her birthday. Anyway, Thinking about all these different days, one thing they all have in common is they all celebrate some kind of spirit or energy or power to get things moving. I mean, for example, Amelia Earhart, she obviously was flying her plane. We've been talking about drive-throughs, which of course involve the car. And bizarrely, this is also the National Day of Motoring when the Mini is celebrated. That the Mini is the car that was British and it was bought over, I think, by a German company. So all of these days are all about strength, energy, power. It's very interesting. It's also the birthday of Simon Bolivar, who was an influential South American leader who led many of the South American countries to independence. So there's a real pattern there. And it got me thinking, well, what if we could use that with our English? What if we could capture that energy? And how could that help us to move forward? Because, many of us just come to the table, we look at books and we think, oh, no, oh dear, it's Monday morning. Do I really, really have to do this? But what if we had that buzz, that energy that's being presented here with National Drive-Through Day, Simon Bolivar's birthday, or Simon Bolivar, and Amelia Earhart? What if we could really pool that and capture it? Wouldn't our days be much better? And this brings us back again to warming up. You wouldn't do physical exercise without warming up a little bit, just to get yourself ready. And I think it's the same with learning English. You don't just, stagger out of bed, go to the table and get yourself ready. You need a bit of motivation. Now, starting off with something easy is very motivating, especially if it's something that you like. Maybe even something in your own language, something motivational to get you going. That's definitely the secret there, I think. In the same way that I've just mentioned Simon Bolivar or Amelia Earhart or National Car Day, whatever it is, these things create an energy because we've been talking about them. We know that these are kind of strong things in our society, so they create a buzz. And you need to do that with your English as well. One easy way of doing that, and something which I do, is to remember that you're not alone learning English. It's not just you in the stadium battling English to try and learn it. There's many of you. You're all out there. And for those of you who struggle with identity and being part of something, in the old days, we were all just part of our community. We knew our neighbors, we knew people. Well, it might help you to remember that you are part of something much bigger, and that is you're part of a large group of people who are learning a language. Everyone's coming at this in different ways. Everyone has their own way to motivate themselves for learning, but you're all there. All different people, but you all have this one thing in common. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were telling me how they really struggle with not being part of something. They really miss being part of a group, or a pack, as we sometimes call it, whether that is a religious group or whether it's a community or a political group. Some people really just don't cope well without that feeling of being part of something. So you are all part of something today. You're all part of a much larger group. Some of you prefer to remain hidden, and others are quite public about the fact that they're learning. As far as I know, there isn't any national association of English learners. There might be in your country, but just to try to find some English people to talk with. As I mentioned a few podcasts ago, if you're ever looking for English speakers, you will always find us in one of the pubs. So if you have an English pub or an Irish pub near you, rest assured there will be English people inside. That's a good place to go. If that's not your thing, I'm sure you'll find an English-speaking church. There's always English-speaking churches in cities around the world, especially in those cities where we had a presence in the past, because the country was a colony maybe or something like that. So that's another thing to check out. But there's always groups, language learning groups as well, especially in countries where there are a high number of people learning, like in the Mediterranean, for example. So that's also worth looking out for. Not a time to be shy. It's a time to capture the moment. So if you are celebrating National Drive-Through Day today, a little tip, tell them you want fries with no salt, and then they'll have to make them fresh for you. And as they always say, when you're going through the drive-through, have a nice day. See you all. Bye.